So it's Monday, April 19th, 2021. We're here for our regularly scheduled select board meeting. And we'd like to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we'll go on Brian Delorier's cue.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is that the right one? Just want to make sure. All right, let's check it.
You got that one, Mr. Former public school teacher. Putting you to work. That feel familiar for you? I can remember.
It's been a while, that's all.
I think I've done that with you before a couple times. I've sounded familiar.
That's right.
We have some warrants tonight. We'll start with the general fund warrants and we'll go to Jonathan.
Don't forget you're muted, Jonathan.
Ready, bud?
Can you move to another one first? I'm still trying to get my computer to pull it up.
Okay, Aaron, are we doing payroll with Aaron? Okay, you get to discuss that great big one from the night.
Well, I think I need some help for the differences, but I can start with, so there are two different payrolls for us to review. There's the one dated April 9th, and that's the pay period that ends on 4/4, and that one's for $55,726.32. And then the one dated April 16th ends in the pay period 4/11, and that's for $20,375.68. And I did try looking through it and trying to see if I could tell the difference, but I think it's probably tied. There were some regular checks and direct deposits, so maybe I could get some help if people wanted to know what the difference was.
Yeah, it was, we paid our quarterly fire department stipends. So all those other names that don't have a lot pulled from them, that are fire department stipends.
Correct.
Are those, Carrie, the ones that say on call? That's correct,
Yeah.
right?
Not necessarily. I'm not sure if the fire department ones say,
There,
it just, oh, yes, they do. They do say on call.
there's
Okay.
some on call and there's some stipend hourly.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the payroll warrants dated April 9th and April 16th for the amounts that I already said.
Yep, second that.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Perfect. Jonathan, are you ready with the general fund yet? Then we'll move on to the other ones.
No, we're good to go here. I got the general fund warrant. I got it pulled up on my phone, so excuse me. I can't even find it now. Well, here we go. General fund warrant for the amount of $59,640.58. Pretty much basic stuff. Nothing really popping out. So I make a motion, we approve the warrant dated 4/16/21 in the amount of $59,640.58.
Second.
Sorry, I forget I'm muted. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Beautiful. Okay, so forgive me if I can't remember, but did we say anyone in particular would do the other warrants, or do you want me to just run down one at a time? Okay, so we've got the Infrastructure Development Fund, the Town Hall Cost Center, $23,637.13. Does anybody have a question about that? Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Just move it. Somebody just move it.
Move.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna play assigned seats from now on. Jonathan, if you can move, and then Aaron, if you can
Yep.
second. That sound good?
Perfect.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so Jonathan moves, Aaron,
Second.
perfect. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Beautiful. All right, now we've got the industrial park warrant dated 4/19/6 $678.47, Green Mountain Power, you know, the gambit. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Jonathan,
So move.
Second.
perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
And the impact fee warrant, $8,099. Carrie, you want to just give a brief over? I didn't see the invoice. I only saw the payable.
It
And
says gear grid. I honestly don't recall exactly what that's for. Do you, Anna?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Half of it is being paid out of the general fund and half of it is being paid out of the fire department cost center within the impact fund because it is related to obviously growth.
But what are they buying? I know, I can't remember. He asked me always ahead of time. Maybe it's the, is it the racks for the
I think it's
gear?
the racks.
It is the racks for the gear.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
We had talked about that a few meetings back.
We
Had a
did.
We had a pretty comprehensive check-in with Chief.
It's just gear grid isn't real specific, so it's a good question.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the name of the company. I just looked through the things and it's for the racks to hang up the
Okay.
gear once they're cleaned.
Brian, I know you're new, so just for the sake of saying it, the fire department essentially runs itself. They elect their own officers and make a lot of their own fiduciary decisions. We watch the money. So what they spend comes through us. Operationally, though, they're fairly independent. Chief Cross is an elected chief by the members. He's also our paid public safety officer. And so he's got two independent roles that often collide. But when you see him on our regular salary, that's his day job with the town. And you'll see him again with a stipend. And that's for his elected position within the fire department. So there's two independent things going on there, just for your own knowledge.
Thank you.
So impact fee warrant, $8,099. We've had a good explanation. Anybody have any other questions? Jonathan,
So move.
all
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. And then we have the Stonehouse. I've got a Goslin electric invoice for $1,847.50. Alan, you want to say what you're working on? We noticed you cleaned up a lot across the road with the excavator. Pulled some trees down. It's starting to look good.
Yeah, so cleaning up the trees across the road and that temporary driveway, that's all for a well for the park. Our next step is drilling and then it's testing of the water and whatnot. As far as the electrical, we got those chandeliers. Those got finished up and some of the wiring and outlets that got fixed. So those are the finish up of that invoice
For the Stonehouse,
for the Stonehouse. Exactly.
obviously.
Thank you for the good explanation. Jonathan?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I
I think that's the end of the warrants tonight. Did I miss any, Anna?
No,
think that's it.
Perfect. Okay.
I did.
So we've got minutes. You're doing a
You got
great job. That was a lot of it. A lot of warrants from a lot of different accounts, Anna. We're only human. You still got it out Friday.
Thanks.
So we've got the minutes ahead of us. Monday, April 5th, 2021, our regular meeting. Does anybody have any questions or corrections? Hi, hearing none. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of Monday, April 5th, 2021.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're on to agenda item number 4, which is public comment. Is anybody here to make a public comment? Give it like 15 seconds or so. Actually, we're only going to give it 5. Let's move on to the Liquor Control Board. So we've got some annual renewals. We have to make a motion to recess as the Select Board and open as the Liquor Control Board.
I make a motion. We recess as a select board and open as a liquor control board.
Perfect.
Second that, Aaron.
Brian beats Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And we've got some license renewals in front of us. Let me open that up here. Liquor license renewals 2021. Anna's always good about putting everything in the,
It's Colonial Deli Mart.
and Colonial Mart for a second class license is the only one tonight.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last of them.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions? No issues, Anna?
No,
Perfect. Okay, so if anyone would like to make a motion to approve this second class license for Colonial Mart.
I'll make a motion, we approve the second class license for Colonial Mart.
Brian, Aaron, who's gonna win?
I second that.
Brian beats out two people. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. So now we need to make a motion to adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene as the select.
Brendan, I just had a quick question before we did that, if it makes sense to ask it here, but how many, because I feel like sometimes I miss emails about needing signatures, so I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right space and the right time. Does everyone need to sign? Are we
good
just doing
question.
3?
Good question. I do need a quorum. They ask you on the application, how many members on the select board? There's 5. I do need 3 to sign off before I send it in.
Happy to volunteer. Jonathan lives right around the corner.
I'll stop down tomorrow too, probably.
Thank you,
Perfect. I'll see you in the morning, Anna. I'm gonna make it on my way by.
thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
Okay, so now we need to make a motion to adjourn as the Liquor Control Board and reconvene as the select.
I'll make a motion to close the Liquor Control Board and reconvene as the Select Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Gary, you got a lengthy one tonight. You got all the way down to I. You got
I
A, B,
did,
C,
but,
D,
you
E,
know-
F, G, H, I.
The chair has been pushing us really hard, so we had to report on many things. But the first thing actually is something that all of us are interested about. Thought it was time to just provide an update and get an update from the Sheriff's Department on their transition plan. It feels like July 1st is a long ways away, but it's coming in fast. So what you have in your notes was a summary of the transition plan, and Roger's going to go over that briefly and here to answer some questions for us if you have any.
Yep.
Sheriff Langevin.
Thanks. We've been working on this obviously for quite a while. We just had a meeting ourselves here as to where we stood as an organization. We've hired 5 individuals who have been through the part-time academy versus the full-time academy. With COVID, the full-time academy cut down to half its usual size. There was one class that was broken up several times where they had to quarantine before going back. They did some online learning. We took a strategic move in the sense that we put our new hires through the part-time academy and then got them into their FTO program here with us. That was actually 3 of them. And we should finish up with the final one by the end of this month, early next month. And 2 of them came from other agencies that were already level 2 certified and had been working the road for those agencies. Our best recruiting tool has been other deputies that we've had here at the office. We have hired 1 full-timer that's coming from Southern Vermont, currently in negotiation with 2 others who aren't ready to announce yet that they're possibly leaving their organization. And we haven't firmed up things yet with them either. The stumbling block for us on some of these have been their retirement programs don't necessarily mesh with ours. So they would be leaving one retirement and starting new at another retirement program. So that's something we're trying to overcome with a couple of full-timers. We did get another inquiry this week from our Facebook page of a federal person who's retiring who wants to come on with us. Those guys they retire young, so they've got a lot of gas left in the tank. They bring a wealth of experience. So people-wise, I think we're doing okay. We have plenty of full-timers right now that we can adjust to the town patrols, as well as blending in our level 2 certified officers. Cruisers, we were going back and forth on Dodge Durangos. They're available, they're not available, they're available, they're not available. So we decided on Actually, since I sent this email to Carrie, going with 2 Dodge Chargers. And I listed the rest of our fleet there. If those Chargers are not ready to go, we have sufficient vehicles which to cover the town. Again, with media campaigns, Facebook has been pretty good to us. So we've got something out there. Our webpage has been great. We've gotten a number of applications through there. Also something Captain Grismore did today, if you look at our website, it's actually got a countdown to July 1st. It's a big clock that's counting down the days, the hours, and all that stuff till we take over the town. So basically, COVID has kind of hit us a little bit hard in our putting someone through the academy. Typically, the academy is 45, 47, 48 individuals. Right now, they're down to like 22, 23 individuals to go through the academy with COVID. And the state police has 10 to 15 of those slots on a pretty regular basis. So the rest of the state is kind of fighting for any additional full-time slots. We're hoping once COVID lifts, say the August class, they'll go back up to a much larger number. Should be easier for us to get in. And by then we'll have some candidates that we'll be able to throw into that full-time class who have some academy or law enforcement experience on the road. Should be a lot easier for them. It should be a lot better for us as well when they get back, because they can hit the road running. Again, we're reviewing additional applications with some experienced people. And our training continues to evolve. We're doing a lot of things as best we can. Tomorrow we have a language barrier training. And then on Wednesday, we have a rail car incident training. So we've got some new and different approaches to our training through Zoom that we've done, and we'll continue to do to prep. We have 2 railway tracks and crossings that are in the town that we will probably likely deal with at some point. And we want to be up to date on that kind of stuff. So I think we're right on schedule. Actually, no, we are right on schedule. We have plenty of people to start out with. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to gear down with a police agency than it is to gear up. And COVID made it just a little bit tougher, but we're doing it. We're going to be ready for July 1st. I don't know if Captain Grismore has anything to add.
No, I think you caught it. One of the things about the cruisers that I think is worth noting is that we're being very conscientious about the spend. So the good thing that we've looked at, Ford Explorers is kind of the standby for most police agencies, and we've looked at Dodges because they're less expensive. They have a smaller cost of ownership, and the 2 Chargers actually will end up saving you money, right? One of the things that we committed to all of you was that we wouldn't exceed a certain dollar amount. So we're looking to be, pretty favorable in that category. As far as the staffing, I know that, all the talk about COVID, it makes it sound kind of bleak. We're very, very well positioned, and we will continue to be very well positioned to staff the contract fully. So that's not a deterrent for us. It shouldn't be a distraction for you. And, and the good news about that, if there's kind of a silver lining, is that, and the sheriff, spoke about that, was that we're going to get, there's very lengthy field training officer program that comes at the end of the academy, and we're able to do that now. So we're able to do that really on our dime, if you will, and get those folks positioned very nicely so that when they do come out of the academy and they are that level 3 certification, then they hit the road immediately. So those are some of the things that we're, that we're very optimistic about as well. Some of the folks that we're hiring, we've actually gone out and looked at specific resumes, if you will, and a couple of the folks that we have, one of the folks that we hired has a very extensive mental health background. We know that that's a very necessary skill set to have these days. And this individual works right now. He's a level 2 certified person. He's contemplating becoming level 3 and working full time for us, but he works for the Howard Center. He's embedded with the Burlington Police Department, and his job is crisis intervention, and providing victim services. So we're very excited about him and helping us develop those programs. Additionally, we're, and I think the sheriff sent out, maybe just to you, Carrie, so far, was that card that we're looking to put in the businesses just to let folks know who they can contact. One of the other things, and I think we've talked about this before, is that we're going to be very actively looking at these community-oriented business teaming events so that like businesses can start to partner and share communications about things that are impacting their particular areas of the town. So whether it's particular crime sprees or concerns that they might have, we're going to be initiating some of those conversations with a number of the business owners and of course the whole town. But we're thinking that at least right now, initially, there might be pods, right? So the north end, the south end, those kinds of things, and working with them to develop and very timely, unfortunately, but working with them to develop some hostile intruder mitigation strategies, right? And we've seen a couple of workplace violence things that have hit the news lately. We suspect that there are going to be more, tensions are high with the post, coming out of the COVID thing and, coming out of the cabin fever thing. And so we're going to be working with them, and we've got a tremendous amount of experience with active shooter mitigation and all those kinds of things. So we want to partner, and this is a no cost to the businesses, but we want to partner with them to help them understand what they can do to be very proactive in their abilities to reduce any kind of potential workplace violence incidents. Additionally, we're reinvigorating our tactical team, our SWAT team, if you will. So we are ramping that up, and that's a very labor intensive and very costly project for us. But, originally we had partnered with the St. Albans City Police Department, but they've lost a number of their operators, their tactical folks. And so we're kind of reinventing the wheel. We're taking it back. And we expect to have a fully functional team as of July 1 as well, because unfortunately that's a necessity we never want to have to use, but it is going to be a resource available to us. So those are the kind of things I just wanted to kind of touch on, but things are looking really good. We're super excited. It was kind of fun putting that little counter. I mean, it was a little, got my blood pressure up a little bit when you see that counter tick away on our website, but Karen, as you said before, it seems like a long ways away, but it really isn't. But we're super excited, and everybody else is excited. And personally, it really can't come soon enough. I'm ready to take the town over now and show the people of the town what our office is capable of doing. I'll put the pom-poms down. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Well, after that, does anybody have any questions for John or Roger? Sheriff Langevin, sorry, Sheriff.
No problem, Brendan.
Yeah. I just had a couple. The first one I had, I think you answered, but just are we set to be ready for July 1? But the other ones, be brief if you want here. Just level 2, level 3 is the only difference that they've graduated the academy. Are there other differences? Recruiting and just looking Facebook and things around here, looks like you still need a few other people. Are there efforts to recruit out of state? Even I'm thinking of, just right now, a lot of people in bigger cities looking to look at more rural places. Just curious if that was a place to look for other recruits.
Yeah, I think, Brian, it certainly is a spot to look for that. Let me go back to like level 2 and level 3. Level 3 is your full-time certified police officer. Level 2 is your part-time certified officer, if you will. They've kind of gotten away from the part-time. A level 2 certified can do virtually everything that a level 3 can do. Just has to be working with a level 3 individual on some certain particular crimes, if you will, and not be the lead investigator on those. We have many 15 to 20 plus year level 2 certified individuals who are probably as capable or more capable than some of our newest level 3 capable officers. So it's a good mix to have that experience. And one thing we do when we're recruiting is we really look for somebody who can talk. That's our biggest tool. Community policing is going to be a big aspect of what we bring to the table, and we don't ever want to lose that. And people have to fit into there. We've had some candidates come in who just were not going to make it. Their ability to speak just wasn't what up to our level of satisfaction. So I don't know if that should answer your questions, Brian, or
it does. Yeah, just curious the difference with them. And I just got one more question if we have time here.
Brian, let me just jump in there real quick. You had a
Sure.
question about the out of state for folks. So we certainly solicit any applications anywhere, but be honest with you, I'd rather have folks from our community. If I had to choose, or if I had the ability to choose, we're very big on community oriented personnel, and it's been probably a habit or a trend in law enforcement to hire people that are outside of their communities. We don't like that. We'd much rather have somebody that grew up in our communities. They understand the areas, know the people, that know the area, the geographic, the aspects of the areas, and we find there's a lot of benefit in that. So, and we're, of course, we're open to anybody. But if we had the preference, I think we'd choose somebody from from our area.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any
I'm
other
all set, Brendan.
questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions? Sheriff, I had one question. I don't know if you'll run into it too much in the town. What is the best practice for dealing with someone on an ATV driving a little recklessly or on a road? Are you still pursuing, or are you allowing them to escape to avoid any accidents?
Well, this is where the community policing aspect comes into it. We'll meet them at their house. We don't pursue ATVs. It's just a kind of a reckless thing for the driver, for one. We don't want anything negative to happen. And again, Brendan, if we're doing our job, especially in the St. Albans town, we should be able to know who's driving that ATV.
Perfect. It's just one question. As more and more communities consider ATVs on roadways and other parts of the county, I was just curious because we sometimes see it on more rural parts of the town. And just a question.
Yep.
Anybody have any other questions for the sheriff or Captain Grismore? Thank you two very much. Very good check-in. Look forward to doing it again. And happy to say I've got my first shot of Pfizer booked for the 1st of May at the complex. So Sheriff, by July 1, you and I will be able to take a little ride along together around the town on your first day. It sound like a plan?
Absolutely. And prior to that too, Brendan, I'd like to do a meet and greet with the select board, maybe invite you to the office, or I'll work through Carrie to set something up there.
That sounds wonderful.
Deputies.
And get that done in June. That way it's fresh when we make that transition. It sounds like a great idea. I'd like to, as we all get vaccinated, I'd like to do more, special meetings around the community when possible. We were thinking about doing something at Cohen Park, during the renovation project at Cohen, to allow Alan to show us all maybe the before and the after. So that would definitely fit into what we're thinking, Sheriff.
Yep, good.
So, Gary, back to you.
Wonderful, thank you. So the next one on our agenda is a board appointments. So there's a few board appointments that didn't make it onto our annual list. This one has already been added. We need to reappoint the Historic Preservation Board committee members. Like many of our other committees, they took had a hiatus of sorts during COVID. So they're back to meeting again. And we would like to reappoint them for a term of 1 year. And I think unless we find a reason otherwise, we'll probably put them on the list and continue to just appoint every year. So on your packets is a list of those individuals for a term of 1 year.
Can you hear my finger scrolling as fast as I can?
That's okay. It's Brendan Deso. You can all just comment on that if you want. No, I'm kidding. Sally Lindberg, Joe Luno, and Les Genghis. And also Sarah Hatt, I'm sorry, as a resident.
Any questions? Would anybody like to make a motion to appoint that slate for a term of 1 year?
I'll make a motion to appoint the slate before us for the Historic Preservation Commission for 1 year.
A race for a second.
Yep, I'll second that.
Jessica, I think, actually got everybody. So with Jessica's second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And everybody's in the minutes tonight, one way or another. That's a good meeting. We got that, and Corey, we've got the draft logo finally. Racked our brains for a few months.
I know we're going to get into that, but I also want to do a commercial for. We still very much need a DRB member. It's pretty critical. We have one member who can't always attend, so we could have a quorum issue, and it's a pretty critical board. So just kind of and usually the best referral source, just like they are with the sheriff's department, is people or people that know people It's important, but it's not as much of a lift as it is for you guys. I mean, the board meets twice a month, sometimes only once a month, and the staff reports come out about a week in advance. So you probably need to spend a little bit of your evening reviewing those. But that's about it. There aren't usually special meetings. There's not a whole weekend of homework. But there's just someone who will, honestly give a few hours of their time at least before every meeting. So it's my commercial, but we really do need a DRB member. Thanks.
It's a good time to bring in a few young people. We've got a lot of institutional knowledge. We're on the verge of losing with,
Mhm.
we have Bruce Thompson, now we have Arthur O'Marty, and well, really Brent Brigham. There's some really great messenger articles that I'll find in the museum and circulate around the next few weeks about the DRB meeting until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, taking testimony when Walmart was trying to get permits. And there's a picture on the front page of a messenger with Brent Brigham with his hands like this in his face, just wanting to go home. And it's like, hopefully those days are behind us. But don't tell people that when you're recruiting. But
Yeah, don't start with that.
Yeah.
Probably don't lead with that one. Wait till after they're appointed, then tell them that happened.
Carrie, I think you mentioned, and this last time we were advertising for getting folks to join the DRB, because there are bylaws and things that folks have to know, there is a training, right? So they're not just going into it blind, like they would have some background.
Yeah, there is. Regional planning does a good piece on that. And I think they also do some for planning, which they did for Corey when he was new here too. So between that and frankly, just a couple hours with one of our town attorneys is, I think, money well spent too. And VLCT. So there's a myriad of things depending on how someone wants to learn or how much they want to learn at one time that we can definitely train them. Yep. All right,
The
now.
fun thing.
Yeah, go to the fun thing.
Yeah, the fun thing. Corey and I have been going back and forth almost on a weekly basis about this logo. So this is like revision 17. So if you hate it, we respect your opinion, but just remember it's revision 17. So let us down easy if it's not good.
As Brennan said, it's actually revision 5. But we started out with a lot, kind of heard feedback of the 2 favorite logos from revision 4. This is what we came back with. You had options A, B, C, D, and E. The staff particularly liked B and E the most. We asked the community for input. I think the most positive thing from the Facebook post was nobody said they hated the logo. I was expecting half the comments to be like, the logo's awful. Let's not pick any of the colors. And then the debate between the 2 colors was, fairly evenly split. I admit I counted for the first 100 or so comments, but haven't counted since then. And, they were within 4 or 5 votes of each other. Basically the step where we are with the firm is we've got to pick a logo. We still have the work they have to do is, I know people think you guys paid the money for logo, but they're still, after this, they have to design the welcome signs, our letterhead, how we're going to use colors. One concept that actually was given in Facebook that I thought was interesting, and the city's done this well, is we adopt one as our official logo, but the city does a good job at changing their color seasonally. So like in the fall, their color's orange, in the winter it's blue. Spring, I don't know what color they use, but I know they use green as well. So say the yellow one, if that wasn't the one you got, the one that had yellow in it you guys wanted like as a full time, but maybe as a seasonal piece, we could try to work it that way. So people go, I think talking to some folks, I think a 2-color option makes the most sense when it comes to putting it on letterhead and how we're functionally going to use it. Even on like even the blue with Alan's trucks being red, we're probably gonna use a black and white logo eventually on his trucks and so on and so forth. So I think just remember that if you adopt this as your logo. But here for feedback, if there's any adjustments the board wants to make, I can say trying to design anything by committee is difficult. So I try to do my best job to work in comments from everybody, and to the point where I feel like no one's 100% happy, but everyone has a little bit of what they want. So that's kind of where it is at this point.
I just had a question, Corey. So for the colors, I know that for websites, there's usually some sort of process where they can check the colors to make sure that it's okay for folks of various vision ability. Are the colors, did the group who designed them think about the colors in that way as well for our website?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can check in with these are the colors provided to us by the design firm.
Okay.
But I can ask them.
What does everybody think? Let's not all jump in line at once then. Let's go right around the circle. Brian, what do you think?
Of the 5 up here, I do think the 2 we put out there, B and whatever it is, E, I do think they're the best ones. I'm not a big fan of yellow lettering. I think it just looks kind of weird. I'm glad Corey said it's possible to do both. I feel like if it were me right now, I like E as kind of the official one that's going to go on stuff. It's simpler. It's got less colors. There's something about B though. I like that sunset idea. The water's blue. I mean, it just seems, it kind of catches your eye. That seems like, I don't know, more like the fun one. And the E is the one that's on the letterhead that's on the trucks. Not that the trucks aren't fun, but that's my 3 cents.
Brendan, you have to let us know who goes around the circle next. We can't see what you're seeing.
So the next person in the circle, I was muted, I'm sorry. First of all, Alan, apparently your trucks aren't fun.
But they could be.
They could be. They could be. With the right logo, they could be. So Jonathan, you're next in the circle of squares.
I like B, and I'm not opposed to doing the seasonal switch.
Okay, short and simple, we like it. Jessica?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a tough time deciding between the 2. I think I prefer E just because it is simple. And when you're printing things, sometimes it's easier in less colors. And not to confuse things, but I do like how in B, St. Albans is darker blue and behind it is white. It just makes the lettering stand out a little bit more. But if I had to pick just one, I think I'd go with E.
Thank you, Jessica. And last but not least, Aaron.
Personally, I'm kind of partial to A, but I am not going to throw that in the ring. I think I'm with Jessica and the simpler colors, certainly from a cost perspective. If we only have 2 colors, that can make it, more cost effective. It also means that perhaps we could play up on the contrast. Maybe it's blue as our standard, and then we, change the 2 colors for the season. That could be the twist. It might be easier to do that than if we had a 3-color one. I also agree with, having St. Albans come through clear on B is really helpful, but I'm wondering too, just even having St. Albans, Vermont with those 2 fonts on, just as the if we had that on a sign, even without the full logo, I think that would be a really clear description of, or not description, but a way of saying that you're in St. Albans Town. Yeah, so these are all great choices. I think, again, my thinking is just around making sure that whatever we pick works for people of all vision abilities. And if that's something that we can think through, that's the only one. That's my only comment.
Perfect. Thank you all for your feedback. I'd like to ask a couple members of staff, if that's okay. Does that sound all right with you, Carrie? If we ask Alan and maybe yourself and Anna and Jen, what you all think?
I like E.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, E. I like it.
Anna, what do you think? Muted right now, Anna.
Damn it. I like E, and I think Jessica and Aaron hit the nail on the head.
Perfect. Alan, what do you think? You have a lot of opinions usually. What do you think?
To be honest, I don't remember what they all were.
Oh my God.
And I don't have them in front of me, so I'm gonna have to go with you guys.
Your truck's
I
really.
believe I was a B and E type guy when it was around, but
E
I
is
don't
double
remember.
Y, that's your foot.
It's E, that's what you should say, Alan. E, there you go.
Whoops.
Very
That's
nice.
B.
That's E,
B.
B. Yeah, I like B.
All right,
You like the one with yellow?
what's your foot size? Double E.
And then
The other
Felix.
piece I'll add too is we're still gonna have to prove a style guide, which again will come with colors and how the
Yeah, I
colors are
like these.
used and
So that was
fonts.
I'm sorry, that was E, the one that,
That's E that Carrie's holding up.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I had
like it.
switched, I had switched to E, to be honest.
There you
I
go.
figured the fact that E was the largest of the ones presented was like the subtle, like, that you want,
No,
so, you
It's
know.
because E wasn't actually sent to us by the design company. It was Brendan taking D and replacing the yellow letters with white and sending it back going, I like this one. I'm like, fine, option E.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna notch this one as a win, especially
Yeah.
if we approve it.
It's
Um,
nice.
So what do we think about approving E as our template and then maybe coming back to colors? Because we want to check, like, I'd love to run it by like a Doug Corey to see if he has any comments from an embroidery perspective, and it's all subject to change, but
Yeah, and again, the piece here, the next step of the process is we'll design, how it would look, how it can be used, how we're going to put it on letterhead, business cards, envelopes, how again, we can do some coloring pieces, and we're gonna do a style guide too, like, how do we refer to, do we want to be St. Albans Town or Town of St. Albans? The fact, I think the reason why I'm really sticking to the ST dot Albans is the city has really chosen the SAINT, and I think it's another delineation, that they are separate, and our official charters written ST dot Albans. There's actually no official governing documents that made us Saint spelt out. So that's just a historical piece there. But there'll be, as soon as I approve and sign off on the concept of logo, they'll send us black and white versions and so on and so forth. And we'll, be back in front of you in a month or so with style guides and approval of all the other materials.
do we want to let Corey run on consensus, or do we feel like we need a motion for the record?
I don't think you need a motion.
Is everybody cool with that? And let him run with E and come back to the colors, and maybe get some seasonal options from Doer Maker and see what they come up with.
I don't even think you need to do that unless there's somebody that feels really strongly about it. We're gonna go with that as its base and some minor
Yeah.
changes for seasonal.
Before we move on from logo, do you want to give us just a brief 20-second update on the website and if we're on track for a May launch?
It won't launch May 1. We had all the information to them. They're just in the middle of their 8-week process of coding everything. We had to go through a number of steps. You approve the design, all the content. So I probably have about 70 different pages worth of information we got over to them. Everything from permit applications to writing up descriptions of departments and so on and so forth. So they're in the middle of I got an update from them today. They're in the process of mitigating it all over and building. They have to build each application so you can, people can fill it in online and that. So I'm hoping they move it along. They're about 5 weeks into what they can say can take 6 to 8 weeks. I think it's good they're communicating with me, which means they'll probably be wrapped up in a week or two of that. But I'm sure we'll have adjustments at that point. So I think safest to say July 1, but I think we'll have something to soft launch in the next 4 weeks, to play with and make adjustments to. I thought the logo would be done by now, but like anything, it seems like we have to iterate a few times, even when it comes back. So that's that piece.
Thank
And
you
now
for
I
that.
have to have them update the logo on the website because we were using the old logo until this one got put in. So that's just another thing we got to send over to them and have them change. So it's not a huge deal, but
And they ought to like it. It's a bit of an improvement. It'll make their website look nicer.
If you do
Okay.
say so yourself. Huh?
Yeah, no, we do. So does anybody have any logo or website related questions for Corey before we move on to an update about the planning commission? Hi, Corey.
all right. Planning Commission. I sent you guys a memo last week. Continue our discussion on the Vermont Land Trust. I know we started that discussion December. We did some data analysis for you guys early in the year. This follow-up, the Planning Commission met with the CEO of the Vermont Land Trust, with 2 members of the Vermont Land Trust, and had a good conversation about the Land Trust is doing in the community. We talked about our concerns within the community about, the land that they're developing, especially along public roads. And one of our, one of the concerns we explained to them is we potentially have to now build more public infrastructure to put more homes in when we could have just built a home on a road that we already have. And they heard us. They get it. They're glad to know we're engaged in this and will come to us as projects come. That being said, there are a number of steps we're going to continue to engage with them on. One is we can work with them that any land they acquire in the future, they're starting to in other communities, acquiring automatic recreational trail easements. So even if we don't build anything there, they're already acquiring that easement from the landowner. I think that's something we could pursue with them. Just kind of, they said literally on a map, and we have those maps where we potentially would love to effectively ever have one. And so let them build that into any potential project because communities are pushing back and they're understanding that if they're going to conserve this land, they need to let the public enjoy the land. And part of that is recreational trails. So that's something we'll engage them on. They'll talk with their lawyers and we're working with them. Carrie will give an update on ARPA funds, but potential projects there are putting in community, small scale public sewer systems. And I asked him, would it be possible if we were to work with you and the landowner to put, effectively the leach field or the mound system, whatever the engineer decides, on a piece of conserved land so that we're not putting out land that we could develop as well, but conserved land maybe next door. And would that be against their mission? They're going to look into that, but they didn't think that would be necessarily an issue. We talked to them about solar panels. A farmer could potentially put solar and other renewable energy on and be considered in compliance with that. The other phase is using zoning to tell them where we don't want land conservation. So I have regional planning now working on a build out analysis of where we could put homes in the community. So we understand what does it look like to add 1,000 homes to the community in our current zoning regimen. But one, I've talked internally to staff and the planning commission is after that analysis, we may look at updating some of our zoning maps, particularly along, like Route 36 connecting the Bay Village to effectively the city and saying, this strip up here, we'd love to have residential, really basically anything that's non-rural, they'll stay out of, especially where they know that's where we want homes. So that instead of being, no, you can't conserve, which I think is, one way to go at, or effectively we can use through planning saying, we want you to, if you conserve, we want you to stick to these areas, and these areas we want to preserve our right to develop in the future as a community. So that's where that, that's effectively what that memo tries to get across. And again, just an update for you folks. I know it's been a little slow moving, but I think it's been engaging for our planning commission. I've learned a lot in the process, and it's, we're developing a nice relationship with the Vermont Land Trust to be able to work with them, going forward.
We appreciate the relationship development and the real thought that you're putting into it. My only question is, before Karen asks her question, have we figured out a strategy for Montang Road specifically?
So my understanding there, and they confirmed that the land that went in was not along Montang Road. They did
Maps were wrong?
So the maps didn't show, but they just put 250 acres in conservation, but not along Montang Road. I'll confirm that with them, but that land currently is still, it's farmland. But
yeah, but it would be nice to say that we don't want a corridor of like 400 feet of each side of a municipally maintained road to be entered into the land trust unless it's not fit for commercial, industrial, or residential development.
What I effectively, I think you could do, which I mean, we'll have to talk to regional planning and others, but could you do like 400 feet on each side of a major public road, i.e. 36 or Lower Newton Road, and say this strip up through is considered residential zoning, which farming is allowed everywhere, so it wouldn't impact current use, and we grandfather everything in, but it's a potential to maybe raise the value of that land for folks and let them know we want to do that. But again, I think Montang Road, once we have a clearer picture, is still a broader discussion. But at this point, it's my understanding from the land trust that land up to the road itself is not in conservation. Just like I always thought Hudax was as well, and they didn't put Hudax in conservation because it was in our growth center.
They came to us when we approved Hudax and gave a blessing, and then they didn't end up doing it.
Because it was in our growth center.
Well, it would have been nice if we got a letter about that, because that rumor flew around the community.
Yeah, so
Everybody thought you just conserved 55 acres in the middle of your growth center. What were you thinking? That would have been, really relieved.
they said they took that into consideration. They do look at town plans where we want our growth. And that's why they recommended zoning as an opportunity for us to basically mark out where we don't want them to conserve. And they got the picture when they looked at the map and realized that they've conserved a lot of land along Lower Newton and some other roads that we could very easily put homes on where there's already infrastructure. They kind of were like, yeah, we could see where you guys are starting to have problems with this because, you've got to grow, you're growing. But, we also say we appreciate, the land they have put in conservation, and, the build out analysis will tell us where we have wetlands and other things that we can't develop that aren't in conservation. So we can share that map with them and say, look, if you can conserve a wetland, we don't necessarily care. We're not building there anyway, we can't. So the analysis is coming next week, and we'll go over with planning commission, and I can do a memo on that to you guys just to kind of update you on that.
As a taxpayer that, puts a very small amount of money into that mission, it makes absolutely no sense for them to pay for conservation easements over undevelopable property. But that's just something from my tongue for the record.
They do it all the time.
I know, yeah. I know somebody personally that's a few $100,000 richer that conserved a swamp, and it's like, I wish. Aaron, did I cut you off when you were about to ask a question?
Oh, you're fine. I did have just a couple questions. So the first one, one of the things we were curious about looking at the data was, were there any other communities kind of like ours, or, whether it's pure breakdown by agriculture or not, but I don't know if in the conversation with the CEO, if they said anything about us compared to other communities, or at least maybe other communities are considering this question.
No, but not many other communities are growing in the state of Vermont at the rate we are.
Yeah.
I think we're, a lot of places where they spend their money in southern Vermont are shrinking. Franklin County and Chittenden County are really the only growing counties in the state of Vermont, and the continued growth trend line up here. So most rural communities aren't growing. We just happen to be, I think, a unique community that's had a rich agricultural history that's all of a sudden in the middle of, it's not rapid growth for in the United States standards, but for Vermont standards, pretty significant growth.
Oh, that's helpful. Thanks. The other question was for the build out analysis. Are they looking at, could NRPC also look at it from like the type of density, whether we're talking single family homes or multifamily homes, or other kinds of ways of putting folks together?
So they're gonna do the build out analysis based on our current zoning and bylaws. That's free. They're gonna look at how much work could be, and there might be a potential, because they do fee for service. And I'll admit, we've asked regional planning to do a lot. They've done the impervious study for our stormwater utility without any extra fees. And so we might be welcoming out our free work for them. So I might come back, because I did ask, I could see an iteration where I would want to see if we increase our density.
Mm-hmm.
And then also if we were to put a public sewer system in the Bay Area, what kind of increase in density could we get as well, and more homes potentially on some of the open land around there. And those are So at first, they're gonna just show us under our current rules, so what happens, and if we change zoning here and here, they'll show us what that build out would look like. And then if we provided infrastructure like water and sewer, what that looks like to be able to put homes in. So it's good information, especially, you know, say we were ever to TIF for a sewer system or anything like that, we'd be able to use that data as an argument that, you know, we wouldn't get this development but for this investment. So it'll just be all informational, I think, to a lot of questions we all have.
Great. And I like that they're looking for the easements from the landowners for the trails. I happen to be talking to a friend who lives in Acton, Massachusetts, and they've got kind of a fun trail network, and she got interviewed on their local access TV for that. And also Booth Bay Harbor, Maine has a really nice trail system, and they're all these little patches across the towns. And at least in Acton, they have a fun passport program. And then if you do all of them, you get a acknowledgement of some kind from the town. So that seems to fit in really well with what we're kind of fostering in St. Albans Town.
Yeah, I was going to add too, I love the trail easement potential there. And I also would think it'd be interesting, I don't know if NRPC will look at this, but some soils are prime for agriculture, and those would be the ones that we want to maintain for agriculture. Because I grew up in a community that was agricultural and now is all housing. And it's nice to have at least retain the lands that are going to be very productive for a long time.
Yeah, and if you look at our map, and I don't have it, if you really look from, you know, Kellogg Road down to McQuam Shore effectively has already been conserved, and that's really where our base agriculture is. You know, if you look, you know, across the street, like where you live, Jess, behind my in-laws' house, that whole field is conserved forever. So you're not going to see development down there, you know, down to those pieces. So they are looking, that is prime ag soil, and so they are looking at all of that piece too, and you know, that's our balance.
Yes, there's an Act 250 criterion that it says that you have to do offsite mitigation if you're developing prime ag soils. That means you have to find an equal acreage of prime ag soil and permanently conserve it without being compensated for that conservation in order to develop that.
Or give the money for conservation. I think that's what Harborview did. They ended up paying, I think, over $300,000 to conserve land in our community to develop their land up there on the hill.
Ryan, Jonathan, do you have any other questions or comments related to this discussion before we move on to Maple Run?
No.
Nope, good.
So moving on to Maple Run School District's responses to Act 250 applications.
Yeah, and this really came to our radar from just conversation I had with a local engineer. And I wrote a memo on it, but the last two commercial Act 250 applications that have gone in to happen in town of St. Albans, one added no students, and one potentially they have a formula how many students could this impact by the jobs it creates, could add 9. And it's noticed that the superintendent is marking that town school in particular is getting to the point where it's out of room for taking on more kids. One, it'd be nice if they would have reached out to us and had that concern, but you know, we've been talking the last, you know, since I've been an employee here about how we're going to grow 1,000 homes and have all these other things, and Act 250 takes into an impact on schools. So what all I'm asking for in the memorandum is to put a letter together with Carrie to reach out to the superintendent and the school board and ask for a joint meeting, or, you know, meeting with some select board members and them to be like, hey, we're seeing this. This is a concern for us, just like you. We make money the same way you do. We view growth as good because it spreads the cost of our community and educating our kids across more payers. What's going on? Are you out of room? You know, we always hear the anecdote, and I honestly don't know the number off the top of my head, but I know like BFA St. Albans is down hundreds of kids since I graduated in 2008. You know, I can't imagine they'd be out of room. They're not saying Maple Run just got $9 million from the federal government. It's part of ARPA. Are they looking to expand town school? Are they gonna build more space? Do they need support from us somehow? Because I would hate to see growth as a reason not to, or, you know, more students as a reason not to grow our community. I think we just need to make the plans and find a way to engage with them on issues like this. So like, a lot, all I could see is if, Ben and Jerry's was looking to double in size here and all of a sudden Act 250 for some reason stopped it
Yeah.
because it added 40 kids to the school and the school was like, wow, we can't do that. I think we'd all be really mad then. So I think let's just try to, from my conversation doing research on it, and I have the 2 applications, and if you, I can send you the links so you can read it. I tried to quote what the superintendent said. We try to address it while it's early on and nip it in the bud and figure out a solution before it's an issue for everybody involved is all I'm thinking. And I want to put it on your radar because it just came to Carrie's and my desk last week.
I've had a lot of time to think about that, Corey, and it is a definite issue. I'm wondering if we should avoid contacting the board and instead work with Superintendent Durf and the next superintendent, Bill Kimball, to just convey. It really needs to be a kind of a stay in your lane conversation. Like, it's our job to regulate land use and to grow or contract as needed, and it's your job to service the student population accordingly. And as long as we both see that as growth is, our position is growth is good, and our position is the one that matters in this conversation. So, you just spent $5.7 million to connect one building to another and add 0 class space. And if you're gonna potentially make derogatory comments on our Act 250 filings, while still they're not even developing any engineering plans to increase the size of town school, that's a real issue. So I think as soon as, either Corey or Carrie or myself or the 3 of us have a meeting with Bill and Kevin, that we'll be able to just, say, hey, knock that off. And I think it'll be a non-issue. And then if it continues to be an issue, especially with the new superintendent coming in, I think then we probably involve their board. Just thinking about how we would like to be approached. I would think if Carrie did 2 things that made somebody not unhappy, I would appreciate it if they went to her first before coming to us. If she continued to do it and they had a concern, maybe come to us as a secondary response. But I'm thinking maybe Corey, Carrie, and myself try to meet virtually or in person with Dr. Durf and Mr. Kimball, and maybe have a quick conversation about it and come armed with Corey's research. Does that sound like a reasonable path forward to try to get that on the calendar for within the next week or 2?
Well, calendars are tight, Mr. Chair, but we will work to get them on in a reasonable time.
You're getting my shrug emoji.
But I will say, I think a new superintendent's an opportunity for us to not approach it with a stay in your lane, but to be more collaborative with the school district going forward. But, that's just my 2 cents is maybe we approach it more in a collaborative manner. But
well, that's it. I mean,
you guys
don't
to
go.
decide.
I just don't want to go to their board over the superintendent's head and then have a brand new superintendent installed. And I think it's going to be a pretty quick, I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of slanted-eyed smiles across the table with some crooked smiles and, you got me there. I got you. And then I think we're going to be okay. I think it'll probably be, I bet you we end up speaking more about a different topic when we do this one, when we do it.
But I do think it's important for us to understand their trends at their school. And if they are up against, space issues, what are they doing for us to understand what they're doing about it?
With their $70 million budget.
Because I don't know if they know we expect to grow 2,000, 3,000 residents in the next 10 years and make sure we're all on the same page in a planning manner on that piece.
Yeah, I was going to say, I reached out to a few people, and of course I taught up there for years. Town schools student population, and like I said, I tried to confirm this today, has been roughly stable the last 10 years. It's the city school that's going, that's declining, but by quite a bit. And I think that's probably it. You may have looked at it just at SATEC, but now that they're one district, and this is where I think working collaboratively, it's their job to figure out how to service those. But I do think it's the right thing to do to reach out and plan for it. It doesn't mean that town school is always going to be town school. It doesn't mean that city school is always going to be city school. Up for them to figure out, but exactly, I don't think we want, that's exactly the thought I had. Ben and Jerry's wanting to double, and we kind of, check that off as a negative as to them doing it somewhere else in Waterbury or something. So I do think
Meanwhile,
it's
5
super-
positions at city school are eliminated through attrition. There's no.
And, one of the questions I would plan on asking in the meeting is, I know they have school choice within Maple Run, and we've taken on city residents to our town school.
Mhm.
I think it'd be unfair if we couldn't expand in the town because city residents were coming to the school there. Add another layer to that, the relationship between the city and town over impacting development. But I think, that's one question I'd ask is how many kids have chosen to come to town school now that they're part of Maple Run when they weren't before, and how does that impact our prospects? And like Brian said, is there a new way to reimagine the 4 buildings inside the Maple Run School District that works better for the 3 communities?
And that's exactly right. As clerk of the Maple Run Union School District, there's a voucher program where Fairfield kids, St. Albans City kids, town kids, they can pick which school they want to go to. And the most kids I've seen are coming to St. Albans Town.
Mhm.
Maybe Corey and Carrie, we need to loop Anna into that meeting, given that she's the clerk for literally both organizations. Maybe that can help us do some bridge building, since we are already intertwined. If that works for everybody, and if anybody has any comment to make, please do so now. But we can move on with the action plan of making a meeting with Dr. Dirth and Mr. Kimball, and having a very cordial conversation about where we see the community heading, and making sure that we're both planning accordingly. Okay, so thank you for figuring that out, Carrie, Corey, and everybody involved. Please thank that that local engineer that gave you that hint, that tip. Make sure to thank them. Appreciate the information. So now, Carrie, I think we're back to you for town manager item F.
Yeah, this is just another bit of housekeeping, though. We need to have the select board officially review and approve this municipal listing, something that I think they use at the state and federal level as well. So it's not just a phone list for regional planning. It's something a little stronger than that. But the only change I had thought was what Aaron, was that I noted that in my own notes, but maybe not yours. Bob Cross is actually our emergency and management director. I'm the emergency management coordinator. I know it sounds like splitting hairs, but we both have roles in really large incidents. It's just, that's what we decided a few years ago. But short of that, I'm looking for an approval for the municipal listing that you received in your packet.
And it only needs to be signed by Brendan.
Okay. Anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the municipal listing.
Second.
Thanks, Jess and Aaron. All in favor?
I,
Carrie, on the town hall.
That was amazing. Fast. The town hall update, we continue to onboard our construction manager, DW. Pete Kelly has been working with us, and his team, Rachel, who's I can't remember her title, but basically she's the one coordinating the project on the ground. Continue to help us work through the soil issue that we had, and we expect resolution. I think I saw some emails last week, quite a few of them actually, that we're getting to a solution. So we still plan to break ground this summer. People keep asking about that. We're not ready to do it yet, but soon. With the help of Hunter Gomez of PCI, Peterson Consulting Incorporated, I use liberally because they did most of the work, but they put out an RFP for a commissioning agent. And I kind of bored you to tears with this a little while ago, but a commissioning agent is a fairly new commercial requirement to have someone who works for the town check the mechanicals for efficiency and correct operation. So it's another check for the process that say I wouldn't necessarily know if the HVAC system is working as efficiently as possible. So we onboarded them this week. We hired Rush Meadows, I think his name is, or their company name is. This is somebody who's had a few decades of experience, but just started this business, as you might suspect, an entrepreneur, realizing that there's going to be a market for this kind of work, but he's not new to the industry by any means. And those are the big changes that happened over the last 2 weeks. We continue to meet weekly. So if you ever wanted to pop in on a meeting, we do it virtually at this point. We meet Wednesdays at 3:00. If you are going to come in, just let me know a couple days in advance. Right now, we usually only have one select board member on. So just want to make sure we don't have a quorum. Or if we do have a quorum, that we warn it. Are there any questions about the town hall project? None right now. Cool. The next one is really just paperwork. I mean, business stuff that doesn't need an action. We're getting a petition for a certificate of public good from Green Mountain Power. There's no action required, requested. Any questions on that? American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA is what we often call this. So quickly we start acronyms that we then forget what they mean. This one is the federal money that's coming to the town. I mention this because Corey and I have already received a couple emails from people requesting that we be as transparent as possible, somehow implying that we haven't been. I just want to say out loud that we haven't gotten the money yet. We don't know how much money we're going to get. So we definitely haven't decided how it's going to be spent. You guys all know that, but in case anyone asks you, you obviously would know that answer. But for anyone that watches this call or these meetings, we are going to be transparent, but we can't use it for a number of things. We can't use it to reduce our tax liabilities. We can't use it on bike and ped paths. We can use it on water, sewer, broadband. There's something.
And if we had any COVID-19
right.
expenses.
Right, exactly. And Jen actually just got another $6,000 or $7,000 from us. We have been tracking our FEMA expenses for COVID quite carefully. And it's no joke to do that, but we're getting reimbursed for that. So that's not really something that we can request money for either at this point. So we look forward to it, but we don't know how much money we're going to get at this point yet. I don't know. Do you want to add anything else to that?
It's between 640,000 and 1.9 million. So it's effectively where the confusion comes in is we get $99 per resident coming to the town. $194 per resident goes to county governments. And we don't really have strong county governments. So the legislature, I think, is going to get to decide how to break up that 194. Latest conversations I heard is that the state would share its funding with, county courthouses and sheriff's departments, allowing the full amount to go to municipalities. But that's not set in stone. So if that was, we'd end up with like 1.991 million. We'd get half of it this year and then half of it next year. And again, as Carrie said, really the only two areas we could spend it on is water and sewer infrastructure and potential broadband build out. So, but we haven't determined what broadband means in the sense of cell towers or anything like that along those lines. But we are trying to figure out what to do with that money if it does come and provide you guys options.
I was going to ask a question, Corey. Is this separate or does it replace what we asked for with the stone house and the bay dock? Is that still out there as a possibility, or is that definitely?
Yeah, so we haven't heard back from the congressman yet, but yes, this is separate money. So the next 3 years is going to be a lot of money flying around. We're hearing another transportation bill coming from, potentially from the federal government. Could mean we might get $2 million for roads in the fall. We don't know, but they're going to look to do another bill like this, so that could do roads and bike and ped infrastructure. So there's going to be a lot, and there's still a lot of grant money at the state. The state has $1 billion they're giving out for these similar types of projects over the next few years. So, I spent 45 minutes today on the phone with a department in state government asking what grants they had and what kind of projects get funded. And, I think a lot of Carrie's and my job in the next 6 months to a year is going to be finding out where all, and, even Alan's and Emily's, when she gets on board, is finding out where all the money that we can pull into our town is and try to get as much of it, throw as much at the wall as we can in grants and funding requests, and whatever lands we move with and whatever doesn't. But it's going to be a once in at least 2-decade opportunity to make investments in our community in a way. 4 months ago, we were probably dreaming about doing over 15 years. We might be able to do a good chunk of that in the next 5 with minimal investment from our community members.
I'm just going to mention one more thing too, because I have seen out there, I've heard from some people wondering, like, why don't they just take that money and just pay off taxes, reduce taxes? So I do think it's important that we're making sure that folks know when this money comes in, you've got 1 or 2 or 3 options to use it on, and it's not just, can't just use it for whatever we want. So
yeah, and I think once we get the official amount, what we get in, and as we start to plan, we'll put together, some graphics on Facebook on how the money can be spent and why we've, I view it in a way, and I think Carrie does as well, that we should be spending this money in a way that will increase our overall grant list to help us grow those other, to grow the revenue eventually, to pay for those other things we want to do as a community that we can't pay for with this money.
Yeah, so that covers it quite nicely. Kind of went over it in the red pen too. So there was a thought I had when you were talking. All right, so I'll move on. I have a couple additions, just minor ones, not requiring action, but Green Up Day is coming up. Alan's been working with the Park and Rec crew. We have our volunteers that have been helping out for the past few years. It is 5/1/21. Do you want to add any other specifics, Alan?
Sure. So Liz and Brad Jackson, they're our coordinators. They're also on our park committee. If there are people that see this recording, their number is 598-4233. They are looking for volunteers, but on May 1st, everyone's meeting at 8 a.m. at the new garage. From there, we'll proceed out to different areas that we've located for cleanup. I do have green up bags at the garage. If individuals would like to stop off during the day when we're open, I can hand out a few bags.
If folks want to volunteer, the best way to do that is to call the organizers, or are there other ways that folks can get involved?
Yeah, we do have posters out throughout the community. There are 3 other locations. 16 Tanglewood, there would be forgive me, I don't have their names in front of me right now, but there'll be a woman that morning at 16 Tanglewood that has green up bags over near the mailboxes on Murray Lane off of Allaire Drive. That community that can pick bags up and do cleanup over there. And then on the corner of Reed Lane and French Hill, there'll be a woman there also that morning handing out bags. So
Kelly Jetty
is the one on French Hill. Forgive me, I forget the names of the other 2 right now. I don't have the poster in front of me, but yeah, if you reach out to Liz and Brad Jackson, they are the coordinators, or just to meet at the garage, and then we can take off from there. And we do have masks, we've got gloves. I've got little survival kits with first aid kits. I know we've got like a karate group that did it last year. They volunteer. There's about 20 people there that come. And hopefully Ben and Jerry's, they've been kind the last 2 years. I think they're going to give ice cream again. So at the end of it, you can go back to the garage and have an ice cream social.
Well, that's an incentive.
Socially distanced, of course.
Socially distanced ice cream social. Alan, any advice on what folks, if they are coming out, or they're seeing this before Green Up Day, what they should wear or bring? Sounds like you've got a lot of gloves and masks, but anything else people should think of?
Well, if we get the snow in a couple days and all the rain we've had, the ditches are holding water, so preferably rubber boots. I always say to wear pants and long shirts, long sleeve shirts. You are most of the time if you're along the roadway down in a ditch. So work shoes or boots and long pants. But I do have rubber gloves. We do have masks. So.
And should folks plan on, if they have like reflective gear, if they're runners or joggers, wear that if they've got it?
If they've got it, I do have a few vests, and I've got 3 kits made up. I do have vests that people can wear, but if you do have it, it would make sense to have a safety vest. Definitely.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And the last surprise I have is that it is getting warmer. Dogs are going in the park. We've had a few, just 2 though, complaints that people are not keeping their dog on a leash. Just as a reminder, we do allow dogs in the park, but they're required to be on a leash and also to be licensed. Our animal control officer, Jim Benson, actually was there for the last few nights and found just in his 1 hour that he was there, 8 different dog owners that didn't have their animals licensed, and a few of them gave him a little bit of lip service as when he asked for that proof. So it's going to do a mini commercial. If you know friends who are walking their dogs there, they should probably get their dogs licensed. It doesn't cost a whole lot, and it's just so much easier for us.
We're looking to integrate that into our website at some point,
To
correct?
manage that. Yeah, we are. Yep, but it won't be done. You know, they're supposed to be licensed now.
After a while, we'll develop a massive email list of dog owners, and we'll put out a PSA on our Facebook and other social media pages. Anna?
April 1st is always a state deadline, but because we're in kind of the governor's restrictions, we're not issuing late fees, but April 1st is always a state deadline as far as licensing dogs.
Anybody have any?
Is Walter licensed?
Walter ought to be if he's not.
I'm
No,
just-
Charlie's not Anna yet. I'll be down this
I'm
week.
just like,
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning, I think. I don't know. I'll have to ask the
Walter.
boss.
What do people need to bring with them to license their dog?
Yeah, we need an updated rabies certificates, and most rabies certificates are 3 years. So if you have a new dog, all we need is that rabies certificate.
And a small fee, right?
It's $10 for a non-fixed dog and $14 for a dog that's non-fixed. I'm sorry, fixed $10, non-fixed 14.
Quick question, Anna. This might be a silly question, but I've always had in my head April 1st.
Yeah.
How soon can you do it? January 1st?
Oh yeah, I get the licenses. I have somebody showing up at my door at 7 a.m. when I get in there to get number 1.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's April 1st is the deadline.
I've always thought April 1st was the day, to be honest with you,
No,
in my head. So
thank you.
Now you got the end, Brian. That's all I have for surprises. So back to the schedule, Brendan.
Anybody have any questions for Carrie before we move on from the town manager's report? Any random questions at all? Okay, so schedule, we have Monday, May 3rd and Monday, May 17th. I'm looking to see if we could get back to in-person meetings, at least for staff and board members, in June, if we're all 2 weeks removed from our second vaccine. I know Corey and I are going in within a couple of days of each other, near the end of April, beginning of May. We'll probably be the last stragglers, I would imagine. But once that's done, I would like to get back to in-person meetings. I'd like to try one. Actually, Alan mentioned that we had Wi-Fi and internet access at the Stonehouse. I'd love to have a couple meetings this summer at the Stonehouse if Northwest Access could accommodate. Would love to have while we're on the topic of schedule, I'd like to start doing some meetings in other locations when we can get back to in person. Alan's been doing a lot of work, working on a wish list item for Cohen Park renovations. He's found some money to squeeze out of the paving contract. We got a really good price from Pike Industries this year. We're looking at a basketball court and a tennis court and potentially paving the parking area. And then Alan's also looked into fixtures to upgrade the existing bathhouse. Waiting for a price, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, on the blue-green coating that goes on top of the courts.
Yeah, I gave Carrie the list today. I do have the pricing on the coatings, the paving, nets, basket, hoops, the poles, all that stuff. The only thing I'm waiting on is the fence to go around the courts.
What are we, off the top of your head, what are we at roughly for a global project budget for this renovation?
Minute, you got it. Do you have it, Alan?
I do have that with me.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You said today, so I figured.
There was not supposed to be math, Brendan.
That's
I
right.
apologize.
Right around 67,000.
We're gonna squeeze it out of your $1.5 million departmental budget, and we're gonna make it work.
Yep. If you guys give me the go ahead.
I would like to operate in consensus to say get that done, but I would like to have a meeting, an in-person socially distanced meeting, maybe, and I'm asking now if May 3rd, if the weather's decent, if we'd like to meet at maybe 5 or 5:30 at Cohen Park and invite the public to also attend in a socially distanced manner to walk around and look at where Alan's got everything staked out so we can see before. That way we can fully appreciate the after. The better we can get that ingrained into our minds of these investments are worth it. That just seems like a good step. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to operate on consensus that, Alan, if you have a paving contract you're waiting to sign, if there's a vendor that needs to be told to order something now because something's 3 months back ordered and we want it before the end of the summer, I think this board is okay with $67,000 to get that project done once and for all. Does anybody have an issue with that? So we're going to operate on unanimous consensus if that works, and then we'll do a full-blown motion maybe at our May 3rd meeting. Now, would that work for everybody to attend maybe a 5:30 meeting at Cohen Park, and then I'll go home and have a socially distanced regular board meeting on the 3rd?
That should in theory work for me. I may have a clinic that day, but I can probably make that work.
5:30, Aaron? Right?
Yep, it should. I think that should work.
We'll just spend a brief 15-20 minutes. We won't do any questions really unless there's a couple members of the public that just have some quick questions. And then we'll all head home. So we're up to the 6:30 start time. One thing we could also do is delay the 6:30 start time to 7 if we wanted to. So we can try to keep it tight though. None of us live more than 15 minutes away from Cohen Park.
Right.
Yeah, 5:30 would be better for me too. Joe's still deployed then, so there's some running around on either end I have to do.
Why don't we shoot for 5:30 and then we'll do a 6:30 start time. And then Alan, if you could put together a 15-minute walking tour, give us like 10 minutes for any field questions, and then we'll come back and we'll have it on the agenda. We'll talk about it again in case there's anybody on the Zoom meeting that wasn't there at the in-person meeting, and then we'll make a full-blown motion to approve the project. But I would continue to operate if there's anything you need to lock down now to obtain a preferential pricing or to keep the project on track. I would say go ahead and do that. That works for everyone.
I got one question, Brendan.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in that price of $67,000, that's coming out of what budget again? Parks and Rec or?
The paving part of it comes out of our paving budget, which is out of Public Works. And
Okay.
then the baskets and that other stuff is miscellaneous lines in the park.
So I guess so where did the extra money come from?
How did we create that room to be able to do this? That's a fair
Oh,
question.
you did?
No,
Okay.
we didn't put anything off. Actually, Alan, if you want to get into it, Alan and I had a pretty good conversation last week. We're in a position where we can actually add a couple of miles to our paving schedule for this year. Apparently the price we got from Pike Industries was such a good one that we were able to accomplish a few more things. And Alan's also applied for a pavement grant with the help of NRPC. And if we obtain that, we'll definitely be able to make some more progress on French Hill too, by the sounds of it.
But the scale, I guess, to give you more framework, the paving is 55 grand of that.
Exactly. It's not the full price. It's not all paving. It's the parts and pieces that go with it. So with last year with the salt shed, to answer your question, Jonathan, is our subcontractor had bid out the paving. We went to Pikes to get it, so they gave us a lower price. The salt shed wasn't done, so we have a allotted amount of money left over in this year's budget. And then with the money that's coming up next year, starting July 1st, that's allowing us to get, and also signing the contract with Pikes over the winter and keeping their prices from last year. It's allowing us to do, we're probably going to do probably 6.5 miles worth of paving this year on roads when we normally only do 5. Plus we'll also get the parking lot done and the salt shed. And there was a little bit of wiggle room in there because they kept the price down, allowing us to get this done at the park.
Does that answer your question, Jonathan?
Yeah, is it the same tonnage as last year, or is it more?
It'd be more.
Can be more. Because we're doing more roads.
Right, but what about thickness? Are we maintaining the same thickness as we usually have?
We are maintaining the same thickness we've done for the past 3 or 4 years, yes.
Okay.
But it's not the same that we did, say, 10 years ago.
Okay, so I got educated by staff on this last week because I had the same question regarding thickness. When I first started as a board member, we would always just pave 2 inches. That was a common practice. Pave 2 inches on top of the road. We would not mill anything because at that point, our only option if we were to mill or cold plane would be to pay to have the material trucked to, usually Burlington. And the cost of that was so outrageous. So Alan and Carrie and the board worked to try to figure out how we could do that because like Clyde Allen Drive had a sinkhole across from Casey Tooth's house. And there were a lot of roads that were just built for maybe 4 to 8 inches total of asphalt max. And we had reached that point. And if we continued to just lay 2 inches, we would fail all the bases and we would kill all the roads. It would be terrible. So what we decided to do was mill off 1.5 inches, and then the milling materials trucked to Public Works on Brigham Road using the railway access yard right by the railroad tracks. We pull in there, we dump, and then we use that material. We actually saved quite a bit of money last year by using that material as a structural fill inside the walls of the salt shed. And we also use the material for the shoulder program on McQuam and other areas. You see Armin Messier took a really nice overhead video as they were doing the side of McQuam Shore of, you've got a truck dumping into the shoulder machine, which is on the front of a loader. And then you've got that being placed on the edges of the road. And then you've got a pavement roller rolling that out. So it's a pretty cool process to watch. We're gonna do that on all of our roads this year, Alan. Anything that's paved, are we gonna shoulder it?
We'll plan on doing a lot of the roads. A lot of times with milling out 1.5 inches, putting 1.5 inches back in, you don't have to hit some of the shoulders. We try hitting the mailbox areas and stuff like that. We did almost 18 miles worth of roadway last year. Complaints of some of the roads that had been done in the past. The problem is shimming and overlaying like has been done through the years. We couldn't even cut through Bronson Road when we changed out the culverts. The asphalt's 20 inches thick in some places. And somewheres you got to draw the line. It's not doing any good by adding on to it. Cracks will still come up through. So by milling and saving that material to use as shoulder work and putting the asphalt down, you're actually doing better to the surface. You can get down below a lot of the finer cracks and make the road better.
We were budgeting on a 2-inch tonnage. We were trying to do 5.5 miles a year on a 2-inch tonnage. And when we cut that to 1.5 inches, the pricing is closer now to what it was 4 years ago. It's different. When Alan said 1.5 inches last meeting, it threw up a red flag for me. So we had that conversation, and it's definitely something that worked its way through the board. We've been doing it the last couple of years, and it's allowed us to.
Well, technologies are always changing with paving. I did it for 10 years. And even in 10 years of doing it, every year it was something different. And if you remember about 3 or 4 years ago when we put shoulders on Hathaway Point and just Brigham Road, we ended up doing about 3.5 miles of shoulder work. And we paid out between $52,000 and $60,000. So the amount that it's costing to keep the roads a little bit better by milling and saving those and doing a lot of that ourselves is saving a lot of money, but also keeping the roads good.
Anybody have any milling or paving or Cohen Park questions for Alan before we move off of that subject? John,
Just a quip. Gone are the days when John Lewin took care of the roads. Oh my God, it was so different then.
Wasn't it his mission to make sure every mile of road in St. Albans Town was paved by the time he retired?
I think so, but I mean,
got it done.
There's so much better now.
Yeah.
Things do evolve.
Got a $1 billion grand list, beautiful roads. We're positioned to grow into the future, and we've got almost no debt to speak of. We've got no debt supported by property taxes. I mean, the position we're in is, we've got to get on top of every soapbox we can find and scream it. Never know what kind of opportunities will come our way. My last piece on schedule is Thursday night at, they're asking people to arrive by 5:45. There's going to be a send-off event for Admiral Ham and his wife, Barbara. I'll be there. Carrie will be there. I'll actually be there on behalf of the museum, probably more so than the town, because there's a lot of folks that would agree with me in saying we probably wouldn't have a museum. It definitely wouldn't be nearly as big without the Admiral and Mrs. Ham. So we look forward to giving them a good send-off. You'll also see the town spent about $700 to take out a full-page ad. Certain times it's appropriate to do something like that. So I thank Carrie for getting it done for us. And if anybody would like to attend, it's a socially distant event. It's not open to the general public. So just let us know, and we will touch base with Mayor Tim, make sure there's enough room to accommodate any other guests. For the record, the town of St. Albans appreciates all of the huge contributions that Admiral Warren Ham and Warren Ham Jr., and Barbara Ham had made over the course of their several decades of service. And we wish them very well in their move, and they acclimate well to where they're moving to. So my report, I wanted to have us out of here by 8. I'm overdue, but so Corey, Carrie, Megan, and I are looking to put together a meeting with someone who reached out from Civilian Conservation. There's a project that was earmarked for a neighboring community that, after some research by the CCC, would be better off in the town. They're looking at a possible development project in either the Energizer plant or maybe one of the vacant spots like the old Staples in the Highgate Plaza. So again, I'm only saying this, not just so that you all know that we're having a meeting potentially in the next couple of weeks, but to know that there are people out there that have a great deal of knowledge that are looking to take federal money and invest it in St. Albans Town because they think we're well suited for it. So it's not just us here every couple of weeks patting ourselves on the back. Other people are noticing the progress we're making. So with that in mind, does anybody have any other business? There's no reason tonight for an executive session. There will be at our next meeting. We need to start talking about our evaluation process for the town manager as required by our shared contract. And we have another meeting. We've got May 3rd. It'll be kind of a double decker. Monday the 17th. I would like to in June, if we can get back to some form of in-person meetings, be able to maybe hear from every department head with an overall status update as where they are and where they're headed. I'd like to start doing that quarterly if possible, both for us and the public. We've hired a lot of horsepower lately, and the town is running itself day to day more so than it ever has. And it should continue to be that way, even more so. And the best thing we can do to set up future boards is to create a either in-person or by document reporting process that's regularly completed quarterly, so that when we need to make a quick financial decision that could affect more than one area of the town.
What happened?
One downside to virtual meetings. Come back. Oh, you came back, you froze.
I froze. Okay, so I'm gonna work with Carrie because it's important if we ever find ourselves needing to make a quick decision that we know exactly what's going on. Am I still a little out of it?
Nope, you're fine.
Okay, so I'd like to do that in June. I'd like to start a quarterly. Every time we end a quarter, I'd like a status update. We can move it to a memo from each department head that goes into our packet. But I'd like the first one, at least, since there's so many new faces, I'd like for us all to be able to meet Megan Sherlin in person. She is phenomenal, fantastic, very easy to talk to, very well suited for her position. I'm sure Emily Sherrington would be the same. We look forward to having her join our ranks at the end of the month.
So you want to have them give you this report at a meeting, or do you want to
The first one, yeah. The first one I would like in person, and then I'd like it to go, in writing after that. I think that'd be a heck of a lot more efficient.
It'd be great if it actually followed a real quarter. So let's start it at a quarter, like.
I think the governor's gonna control that. I think July 1st is when he said we could probably start opening up.
Well, we were meeting in person last year. It's just the case per county metric went up a little higher than we liked, and we went back to virtual. Once we're all vaccinated, I have no problem making that determination.
Me neither.
But if that sounds good to everybody, that's where my head's at. I'd love for us all to be able to have an in-person meet and greet with our new staff members and to check in where everybody's headed. Megan, Corey, and I'm sure Emily, they're like Alan and other department leaders. They bring up their own initiatives and they work it up from the bottom up. And a lot of times those are the best initiatives we can have. Alan heard us talk at a meeting that Cohen Park was a priority. Now we have a shovel-ready project almost ready to be put in the ground. Anyway, we could talk all night. So if nobody has any other business, now would be everybody's favorite time of every meeting, a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
It didn't take very long. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.